Welcome to the study session of the Aspen Peaks Board of Education. Today is Thursday, January 15th, 2026, and the time is 4:04 p.m. We are meeting at the Alpine School District offices, and the following board members are present. Board Member Bremer, Board Member Bonner, Board Member Burrows, Board Member Knight, and Board Member Hart. Board Member Thieler is participating remotely. We are excited to have 3 presentations today, and we will get started with our very first one. It is a presentation about policy from Joylyn Lincoln, who is the policy guru in the world. So we are thrilled to have her here.
I don't know about that.
No pressure.
Joylyn, you are on policy.
No pressure.
So we're going to talk about policy, and I'm going to try to go really fast. I woke up this morning, I told my husband I was speaking on policy today, and I was really stressed, and he's like, well, why are you stressed? You can talk on policy, and I'm like, I don't know which presentation to use. So we went with this one, we'll see how it goes. Why do we need policies? They're our roadmap. They help us get to where we need to go, and they keep us moving as a district. And really good policy will make sure that you have guardrails. It keeps you safe. It says that everybody gets to play within the guardrails, and they know that their feet are on solid ground, and they know that it's not shaking underneath them. Really bad policy is like having our teachers and our administrators stand on quicksand. They just don't know which way it's going to go. So it's really important that we have solid policies. I'll get there. School leaders need to identify those risks because that's what's going to keep us safe. And they're going to be able to communicate to the broader community exactly where we're going. So I like to think of policies, there's some structure to policy, and it's kind of important. First of all, our federal government, they have lots of laws, and we see this a lot in education and IDEA. And this is like the king of policy, the king. You can't go outside of it. Then we have our state laws, and actually, Mr. Bullitt should be our Utah Constitution. That's what's next. So just know I skipped it on accident this morning. But then we have state law. State law, our legislators are going into session on Tuesday. They can say anything they want as long as it fits inside the federal bowl. If it doesn't fit inside, they don't get to go there. And then we have the State Board of Education, and they were wrestling with that this afternoon a little bit. They kind of thought, well, it'd be really fun if we go outside of it and see what happens. And if they do that, then it gets, it gets a little funky. So you have to nest in appropriately. So we have the federal government, we have state law, and then we have the USB rules. Most of our state law that we follow is 53G. So just remember, 53G gets you into education. Every now and then we get a piece that's outside of it, like open meeting law and a couple other policies. But most of our law for education is in 53G. And our rules are 277, R277. Okay, then us as board members, we get a good bowl too. It's still pretty good size. And our policy, it has to fit inside. It just nests in. So like with the cell phone policy, last year our legislators, they decided to speak on cell phone, and they said you have to have a policy, and these are the guidelines of that policy. We have to fit inside it. We can't say, nope, we don't like that. We're going to do something different. It just doesn't work. It's not going to balance, and it's going to collapse. After you have your state board or your school board, and that's what we say, board members only speak through motion, and what is lasting, what we say, is policy. If we're just one off as a board member, it's not binding. It's through policy. That is the venue that we as board members speak. Then we have the superintendent, and they do procedures. They figure out, the board policy, we get to that, and it spends time answering the how, where are we going, why, and then procedures are what our superintendents do. But outside of that, we still have more. We still have administrative rules. Our building principals, they pass stuff all the time. They have handbooks. The finance department has a handbook. Most of our departments have a handbook that they follow. And again, it's going to fit in nice and neat. Our classroom teachers going back to that cell phone policy, they get to decide in their classroom, are they gonna be a teacher that every kid checks their phone into a hanger on the back of the door? Are they gonna be one that they get zipper pouches? Or are they gonna be one that are just gonna use the pocket and the kids are just gonna go with it and keep it in the pocket? They get to control that in their classroom and choose which way they're gonna go. I ran into a teacher yesterday, he says he has a pouch on the back, and I said, hey, do kids ever put dummy phones in? So I've been hearing about that, and he says, not in my class. And I said, why? And he said, because in my class, at the end of class, I spin the wheel, and whatever pouch number wins gets a 5 points extra credit on an assignment. And it has to be a phone. If it's a phone case or a fake phone, it doesn't work. So he has no problem in his class. He's figured that out. He gets to do those procedures. And the reason we do that is for the student. It all comes down to the student. So again, if we go topsy-turvy, it's just not and we don't keep ourselves safe.
And then your glass is stressing me out.
I'm so glad they didn't break.
Yeah.
People tell me all the time, do glass has teachers. Not doing it. She has glass bowls.
Pyrex.
You know, the Pyrex bowls that one go
That
inside
nest,
another.
yeah.
Okay, this you're gonna have, whoops, I forget, I'm running two.
Was he just on?
He's on the speakerphone.
Oh, he's not on Zoom. We can't.
Okay, you're gonna have to listen really quiet on this one, because it's important. Okay, so listen up now.
The code is more what you call guidelines than actual rules.
Okay,
Where did it
so
go? Okay, sorry. Somehow I
we'll
ended
do it
up in the
again,
wrong-
because it's a good one.
There we go.
Guidelines.
It's not playing. I don't know
It's because
why.
I've played it on mine.
Oh,
So
sorry.
really, when it comes to policy, you can't be a pirate. They are not guidelines. If they are guidelines, your bowls are going to break. Mine don't break because I know that they have to nest. So it's really important that we're not a pirate. I'm going to talk a little bit about the policy template that I use, just so you're aware of what's in it. It is very different than what I see most places, but it is not something I totally created on my own. It's based off of John Carver and his policy, and then Quinn took it in coherence governance. He took it a step further, and then I've modified it for the climate we have here in Utah. So the first type of policy you're going to see is your results policies or goals. This is where you're going. And it's really important that you put where you're going in a policy. Otherwise, administrators, this can happen. They set a goal here and a goal here and a goal here, and pretty soon they're running around with their heads chopped off. They don't know which way they're driving. And since policies are those guardrails on our journey, having your goals in policy makes it so that you can come back and check and everybody is going on the same trip. The next is governance culture policies. Think of this as your board handbook. Lots of times, and lots of boards have a board handbook. I like putting it right in policy because then everybody in the community knows how the board's gonna behave, what you're gonna do, what your standard practices are. As a board, we did one right off the bat on how we were gonna do public comment. Want to make it crystal clear in a policy so everybody can see it. The next is a board superintendent relationship. This is how you're going to navigate. You're doing two different things. Boards are doing the why and what, and he's doing the how. So you choose the why and where you're going, and he's going to figure out how to get there. If you want to be the one that figures out how to get there, it's okay, you can do it. All you have to do is resign your board seat, apply for a superintendent's position, and get hired. Then you get to do the how work. Otherwise, that's not board work. We don't get into the nitty-gritties of how. Then we have our operational expectations. These are really important for the superintendent. They say this is where your fence is. You can do all the hows you want inside, but this is it. These are these parameters and these borders. Next, you have your student policies. We've got that because that's our focus, the students. Then we have teaching and learning, community, finance, and personnel. And I like them to break down there. It gives you 9 categories. You can do 100s, 200s, 300s, 400s, 500s. If you need bigger numbers, it's going to be a little crazy. I started out with really big numbers, and I said that's not really good. So I've kind of coalesced through that back to just some simple 900s. So So to write good policy, there's some steps. And I think it's really important we know those steps to write good policy. First, we have to identify the need. We don't just start writing policy and then put it on a shelf. That's what the 1984 Alpine Board did. They wrote really good policy and they put it on a shelf, and it has sat there for a very long time. That's not good. We need to make sure we know exactly what that need is, and then we need to know what the purpose is and what those boundaries are. So you're going to think through that. When you start to collect relative data, it's a little different than what a teacher might gather. She might gather scores in the classroom. If you're a doctor, you might gather height and weight. For us, the data is what in all of these bowls relates to this policy. What have the federal government said? What has the state government said? Because remember, we need to nest or we're going to fall apart. It's really good to get some solicit and get some stakeholder input, to have an opportunity for people to say about the policy. It's really frustrating to our community at large when we pass a policy and the first time they see it is 24 hours before we pass it. So really making sure you find a way or an avenue to get that stakeholder input. And then because you know where you're going, then you can start to draft it. I'm going to send the slides to everybody tonight, so you're good. And then you need a review process. This is really important, that we understand and we review and we circle back. When we have a policy, we need to always be asking, is it effective? How do we know it's effective? And what are we going to do about it? If we're not effective in our policy, we have two choices. We can change the policy, or we can change the practices. But just sitting and having a policy that's not effective wastes everybody's time, and it starts to put some quicksand into your road because people don't know where they're sitting because you're not living by your policies. And both options are equally good. Sometimes it's very appropriate to fix the policy, sometimes it's appropriate to fix our practices. And you need a review process. How are you going to know when it's effective? What are you going to look at? And I like to do that up front. I was in a training with our special ed department, and before they write IEP goals, they need to know where they're going, then they write the goals, but they also need to know how they know when they got there. Like, that's really important to know what that measurement is. You're going to adopt your a policy, and then the next three ones are really important. You've got to communicate it out. If you put it on a shelf, and luckily we live in a technology age, so you don't see it so much, but in 2004, I would go into some schools, and they just had dusty binders. It didn't do the community any good. Having it buried on your website doesn't do your community very good. If your admins at the school levels or supervisors don't know where to find policy, it's not, you're creating that quicksand, you're throwing it in there. If your community doesn't know where to find it, and they'll go looking when they're frustrated. So they don't just naturally think. And then when you're frustrated, can you find things right away? No, it always takes me longer to find my shoes when I'm frustrated. My keys, we had to put a beeper on it, which is when I get frustrated. So knowing where it's at alleviates that frustration. And then when you're dealing with somebody that's not happy, you're not dealing with the not happy of the situation and the not happy of finding the policy or not being able to find it. You're narrowing it down. And then again, we've got to monitor and evaluate our policies. That is really important. Otherwise, we really shouldn't waste our time on policy. And again, that comes back to that, is this policy effective? How do we know it's effective? And do we need to make changes? Really important that we are asking those questions. We can't ever improve. Like if we're a gymnast, we don't just do gymnastics one day and then we're just like it. We're always asking, how can I get better? What can I need to do? I know my daughter's a swimmer. She would watch people swimming for hours. And she would even read books on it. And I'm like, but you're a swimmer. But you practice it, you read it, you study it. That's that asking if it's effective. Whoops, I went too far. Okay, so now I'm going back a little bit to our template. We have to know where our policies are, or again, it's just a cluttered mess. And that's why we have this type of policy. I'm just telling you and showing this in your slides. I'm going to send you our policies that we write, and then you can do whatever you want with it. There's no ego attached to it. You can adopt it as it is. You can modify it, or you can say, Draylin, you're crazy, and we're not even touching this. It doesn't matter. But I just want you to kind of see how I've broken it down so you know where I'm going. You could use different numbers and then renumber when you get it. It really depends on what's going to work for you. Just like all of our houses are designed different, then when we go in, some people have a front room, some people have an office right there, some people don't have a room right there, you just go into the great room. All of them are really great options, but you have to know where it is. You have to know where the toys go, where the TV goes, and especially where the remote goes. Otherwise, it's really frustrating. So just come up with a system, and then you're going to stick with it.
Sure, Lynn, do you mind if I interject? So I'm in the policy committee with Steve and Jason Thieler. And I was talking with Diane this week about our policy structure because we've written a few, we're writing some more. And my thought was that we generally maintain the structure of policies that Alpine is using because SB 188 has us adopt their policies. And then over time, we'll amend those and curate them as we see fit. But my thought was since we're using theirs, we might as well use their numerical structure because we're all new. And then once we have a critical mass and we're more familiar with the policy environment, maybe we'll want to change, the way that we number them. But for the time being, for today, for instance, where we're going to adopt a school calendar policy, we're going to use the same number that's on Alpine's website just so that it's easy to track. And that's kind of how we thought we would go through it for the first year or so.
And I'm going to do one correction.
Okay.
SB 188 only requires you to adopt one set of policies from Alpine. It is only the personnel policies. All of the rest are not in that caveat. It is just the personnel, and they are to be intact for 1 year.
All right.
So you do have a little bit of freedom on policy if you would like to take it.
Does it say what the assumption is, though? Is the assumption that Alpine's policies roll over unless we have? So
It
we would
doesn't
need
say
to vote
anything
to
on
take
that.
all of.
You have to vote to
say
bring
we're
them
going
on.
to keep Alpine's policies unless we've made a change or something. Do we need to vote to do that then?
Yeah, I don't know that you need to vote. This is according to Draylin, and I am not a lawyer. I missed that vote in my world. We have 17 months now to roll out before we're over education, we're over finance. So we have time to do those policies, so I would be leery of just adopting them all today. And I will get
Right.
in and show you my thinking and philosophy on why you may want to do a little bit more development. But that again is a board decision.
But the personnel ones we do have to just
But
keep for a
personnel
while.
ones you
Okay.
get to keep.
Great.
So I really like a policy statement. This is the philosophy of the policy. This is how, the value statement of the policy. In Alpine, that is the only part of the policy that the board adopts. And so that's where this is a little bit of a different distinction. They adopt the philosophy and the theory of the policy, and then the superintendent owns the rest. Now there's a couple where that line's a little bit different, but you can find that line on all the policies because it'll say board approval. Everything above that is what the board has adopted. 90% of the time it is just the policy statement. That means everything below it, the superintendent can change however and whenever he wants. That makes me, as a policy person, a little nervous because I don't have really solid guidelines and I get a little nervous with that. I like to say a little bit more, and our legislators sometimes insist that we say a little bit more. So we adopt a policy statement. I think it's a great idea. I think every policy needs a good value statement, a theory why you're having it. I do a pretty extensive definitions policy. Words mean different things all of the time. All you have to do is talk to a teenager right now and you can understand that words mean different things. Mine's always texting me stuff and I'm like, oh no, is that good? Is that bad? Should I respond? Should I not respond? And they're words that I'm used to, but she uses them in different contexts. So I want everybody that reads the policy to understand exactly where you're coming from. And so I spend a little bit of time making sure that we really define that out. The scope, that is, let me catch myself back up. The scope identifies who and what the policy applies to. And that's really important because sometimes you'll have a policy that applies to certified teachers, but not your educational support services or your administration. So scope, knowing exactly who, whoops, we got ahead, there we go. I'm really bad with clickers because I keep clicking them. But really, so you know really clear who this policy is addressed to. I don't have to remember that the 600s are business services. I also, when I read the policy and the scope, I know who it's going to apply to. And then I am really big on this, and that is references. If your policy is fitting inside of somebody else's policy, I want that in the policy. Because the legislators, they have 45 days, and they will change things. And that's good and that's bad. It's just what they're going to do. So if I have a policy, it's really important that if my policy is tied, I know that. Because, and someday we're not going to be sitting at this table. It's going to be other people. And they're going to see a policy that says that cell phones are bell to bell. And they're going to be like, that's the dumbest thing ever. Why did they do that? And they're going to change it, not knowing that the legislators have said that there's this, that you have to have a policy that's bell to bell or whatever it lands. So then you know before you change the policy to go back and check the code. So I try to always list the federal code that I'm relating to, any state code that I am, and any of my own policies. Because if you change one, you got to know where it's at. I hyperlink them. Right now they're not hyperlinked because we don't have a digital place to store them. But hyperlinking makes it really easy. People can just click and go, and then it's there. And the other thing that's really nice about hyperlinks is if they change something and you miss it, sometimes you do. We get a spiral-bound book after every legislative session. Sometimes if you miss one, you go to the hyperlink and it doesn't hyperlink anymore. Then you know to do some research. Maybe you can change your policy. Maybe you don't need a provision in it that you didn't like. You can adjust then. So it's really important to have those references, and I keep them right at the top because I want everybody to know, like if we have to go to a bell-to-bell cell phone, then that's not going to be real popular. I know it's not because I have a 15-year-old. It's not going to be popular. But if that reference is right there, then it's really clear. I can say to my 15-year-old, here's the policy. And my kid will read the policy because she's my kid. And she'll be like, okay, we'll do it. So that's really important that you define those and you link those right up. Okay, policy provisions. This is what I really like. This is where the board says everything in the policy that they want to say. We're going to spend a lot of time on the what and the why. Remember, if you want to talk about how, all you got to do is resign your position, apply to be the superintendent, and get the board to hire you. So policy provision always stays in that what and why, and it sets those really good fences. Makes it really well established so that everybody knows why we have this policy and what it's going to look like and where those edges are. The next is procedures. Now this is a uniqueness to Joylyn, and I didn't go fast enough. I'm going to have to go real fast. Procedures are owned by the superintendent, and they always should be owned by the superintendent. But in today's world, parents don't know the difference between procedures and policy. They have no idea. They just want to know where those fences are. And procedures, because they deal with the how, the superintendent should be able to change them when he needs them. So in Alpine's policy, the procedures are everything below where it says board approval, which 90% of the time is below the policy statement. For our board, we have taken the procedures, and the superintendent can change them anytime he wants. But then, so we can have it really nice for that community outplay, he will bring it to the board. It will go on the consent agenda. When it's on that consent agenda, the board doesn't talk about it. We're just approving it so that it goes back out on the website and everybody can see the policy. Because again, parents don't care if it's a policy or a procedure. They just want to know what it is. So we're going to keep it in one document so they don't have to go one place for the policy and one place for the procedure. It's all together. But the board doesn't own the procedure changes. Procedural changes come from the superintendent, and they can do them whenever they want. They just bring it to your next board meeting, put it on the consent agenda. Now, what if, because it might happen, the superintendent comes up with something you really hate.
You can pull it off.
You can pull it off the consent agenda, table it to the next meeting, go have a conversation with the superintendent, discuss it. The superintendent can say, no, to do the hows, I gotta have this, and he can bring it right back, and then you can see the vote. Or you can navigate and he'll say, oh, I hadn't never thought of that. You're right, maybe I should make a change. So you can have those discussions, but the ownership of that is the superintendent's. Remember, we only speak through motion, and so when you're having that one-off conversation, it's not binding on the superintendent. Gives him that ability to do the how.
The nice thing about putting it on the consent agenda is that all the changes come to you in your board docs, so you're going to get to look and read through it as a board member, and all the changes are on the public docs for the public, but it may not be a big enough change that we need to have like a big long board discussion about it and bring it up in the meeting and whatever.
So right now we have
So
a
it's
really
nice to
good
have it
cell
on
phone
consent.
policy. If it was in this format, the procedures, that bell to bell thing would be there. If the legislators go bell to bell, the superintendent could go in, change it to bell to bell, come back on the consent agenda. We don't even have to have a discussion about it, and then it pushes back out. The community is very clear where the boundaries are. The teachers are very clear where the boundaries are. They don't have to read 3 or 4 different docs. They've got the procedures in one place. They've got the policy. They've got the link to state code. They're happy. Now, when they're really mad about that cell phone and they come to talk to you about it, they're only mad about the cell phone, not the policy too, because they couldn't find it. They didn't understand it. It wasn't out. They had no idea that their kid couldn't have the cell phone in school. See, you get rid of all of that by being really clear. Now, my favorite part of, rules and regs. So on my policy template, which I'll send out with this, rules and regs are what happens at the school level. They don't belong on policy anywhere, but I include them here because they're important. And we need to have them in our heads. Those are all of those handbooks that happen in schools. And you need to know that they're there, but they are not on the policy handbook. We would direct somebody on a rules and regs back to their school's website. And hopefully they're not like
We're not
our
like
friend.
Dolores on the
No Doloreses. Then my favorite part of this policy is, how do I know it's effective? What does it look like when it's effective? What's the review going to be? And who's going to do the accounting? So for instance, I should pull, we have a policy tonight about the calendar. So we know our calendar policy is effective when there's a calendar committee that's put together and they work together on it and they're all present and it's passed a year in advance. That's our effectiveness. We know that that's what it looks like. Our evaluation standard on that, and that it meets all of the rules in 277 on accounting days. So we've accounted for our 180 days appropriately. That's in our effectiveness. So on our evaluation standard, we want 100% and no complaints from USBE that we don't have enough days in our calendar. So that's 100% check. Now, on the committee, we want it to work 85% of the time right. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect on that committee. If the student didn't show up to the committee meeting, I'm not docking the whole world because the student didn't show up to the committee meeting. So 85% is effective. But we know what that effectiveness is. We know what it's going to be and what the standard we're going to measure against. Then we also put into the policy, so we're all approving it, is that review cycle. When is it going to come back? So in our calendar policy, we said you can adopt 1 year or multiple years. If you do 1 year, it's going to be 12 months ahead, and if it's going to be multiple years, it's going to be 24 months ahead. So then I say, well, we just approved 3 years policy, and they're going to 3 years calendar. They're going to expire in 2020, 2030. I don't remember right off the top of my head. Yeah. So in my document, because I don't have to remember this, I backed that out 12 months. Then I went 4 months before, and I dropped it in on my board. I have a little spreadsheet that has every month, and then every meeting, and I just dropped calendar policy. I don't have to think about that calendar policy again for review until it shows up on that calendar, and then it just is automatically going to come there. Every policy we adopt goes onto our calendar. Some are, like that one's going to be 4 years out. Some you're going to look at every single year. They're just that important. Your student policies, you got to look at them, make sure they're what you want. Some will be 3 years, like our board governance ones we're gonna look at tonight. Those are 3-year cycles. Actually, they're 4-year, because we wanted to catch them in everybody's election cycle. So you're gonna have different review cycles, but when you have the calendar, you drop it in, it just surfaces back up. Nobody has to get elected to the board and then go and read all of the policies to figure out what policy needs to be reviewed next. And none of the policies will get ignored back in 1986 because it's just gonna automatically come up in your board calendar. So all you need is one person, once we have staff, the staff member that does the minutes, they can do that really easy because it says right on there, this one's gonna be reviewed annually in March. So she just puts it on the calendar for March, and in February when she's starting to prepare, she's gonna say, hey, remember we've got this policy coming up, and everybody will look at it and send it to a policy committee. And a policy committee should, because it has, on this one, it has board policy and it has procedures. You're gonna work with staff, there's gonna be some overlap. It's not strictly a board committee, and it's not strictly a superintendent committee, kind of overlaps. But we know it's coming up in March, we backtrack it, that committee's gotta look at it at least a month ahead so that you get it and it comes through on a nice cycle. This is the genius. I firmly believe that if we can get half of the state, I don't know, maybe it's not even that, but if we get half of the state to have an effective standard or an effectiveness statement, an evaluation standard, and when they're going to review it, we will change the dynamics with our legislators. Right now, we live in a world where a parent gets frustrated. They can't find our policy. They don't know what it is. They find 4 policies. They don't know which one to find. So what do? They go to their legislator and say, my school district sucks. They can't do a policy. They don't know what they're doing. I need you to fix it. But if we're all doing this, our legislators will be, oh no, your school has a policy. It's on their website. It has what it's going to look like effective, and they're reviewing it on a cycle. You go talk to the school district. Think about what that would do. The legislators, they would start to celebrate. They'd be like, hallelujah, no more education policies. We can focus on important things like economic development and housing and roads and water. Those are things they want to spend time on. But they keep getting sucked in because we suck them in because we're not accountable for our own stuff. So if we become accountable, we can shift the dynamics of our relationship with our legislators. I firmly believe that. I don't have anything to prove it out, but having worked in education policy and education in Utah since 2004, I think it changes it. I think if you do all Alpine stuff, I ask you, look at that effectiveness, because that makes those guardrails like they're cement. They're not little barbed wire things that are gonna fall over. It really keeps your community safe. And we're in our environment where it's gone highly litigious, keep our resources safe. We want our resources going to our students, not protecting our inability to draft a good policy, to listen to our community, to face it out, and then to review it on a annual whatever review cycle where we ask, is this policy effective? How do we know it's effective? And then what are we going to do about it? And this accountability reporting, that also in there, you'll start seeing statements that say, who's going to do it? Now, I am not wanting to make, so we have to have somebody at the district office over policy. I don't want to dedicate a single FTE to policy. I really don't. I mean, you probably need a legal person on your team to look at some stuff. So I try to keep it really simple. Like on the calendar one, when you're sitting at the dais and we're looking at its accountability, well, the board chair is going to say, was the policy or was the calendar approved 12 months before? Yep, great, done. Did we have any findings from USBE? Nope, good, we're done. Was there a good sampling of everybody that should have been on it? Yep, good, we're done. We don't have to have huge accounting. That's all in our minutes, and that's the beauty of minutes and policy. It just took care of itself. Now, when there's a lawsuit, where are they going to go? Policy in your minutes. And you've just protected it because you had the conversation in the boardroom and it says what it's effective. And you have saved your district money to go back into classrooms. So that is policy, and I almost made it in 30 minutes, which is really hard to do because it's my favorite topic. Any questions?
Very well, thank you.
Everybody has their thing, and this is Jolen's thing.
Yes.
I really missed the boat. on an ed law degree. I really just did. But that's okay. So what I'm going to do to you, because we are only as strong as all 3 districts, we are only as strong as the weakest educational opportunity in our surroundings. I am, every month, I'm going to send you, and I'm going to send Tim Pinogas the policies that I wrote that month. You'll get them in a Word doc. I'm not going to play games with them. I'm not sending them and then you have to recraft them or whatever. Once you get them, you can cut and paste them into any format you want. You can throw them in the garbage can. I don't want. But once a month, I'll send you what we've worked on, and then you can go from there. If you like what I'm doing and you think, hey, I'm going to do this, and you have need for a policy, just holler at me. I do better with a little bit of runway. I tend to be like a kid at a buffet when it comes to time, and I just keep piling stuff on. But I am happy to write policy. I am going to tell you, when I write policy, I have different favorite people across the state. Oh, there's one more thing on our policy. We track all the changes, so it makes it easier and later. And so when I write policy, I go look at different districts and some districts, and I love that AI allows us to start to combine them. I don't let AI do all my drafting. When I do a policy, it takes me about 5 to 6 hours because I sit and have conversations and work on it and do the research. It's not a 30-minute thing, but I am happy to assist because I want and I'm committed to 3 strong districts.
Thank you.
Can I use that?
You can just put it in my box at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thanks.
And
And
that.
that.
Yeah, and that. Okay, so Darren was talking to me about legislative advocacy and how do we know what we're doing and how do we get better at that. And I was telling her, oh, I have this class I have taught for state PTA like 2 or 3 times about this. And so I sent her the slides and she was like, this is great, let's look at it. So this is my state PTA presentation. So if there's like PTA things, I tried to clean them up, but Jolene, I'm buying you plastic bowls tomorrow.
I'll just put them with the other
That
sides
is
of plastic
stressing me
bowls.
out.
It was for effect, though.
That's true. That's true. It was very effective. Okay. So let's see. So that's me. I'm the presenter. Da da da. Okay. So for this presentation, I have, when I go over it with PTAs, I have 3 goals for them: to find out who represents them, to communicate effectively with their senators and their representatives, and then to solve any problems that they might be concerned about. So one of the things I like to point out is the mirroring that we have in different types of representation. So at your local level, you have an executive person, and then you have what I would call like your legislative person, right? So you have a mayor and you have a city council. At the state, your executive person is the governor, and then you have legislative 2 branches, the Senate and the representatives. Federal, same thing. Your president is your like executive person, and your senator, congressman are your legislative people. At the school, it mirrors that, okay? So at your individual school, you have an executive person who's like your principal, but you also have teachers and staff members who have a smaller group that they're accountable for, that they're maybe even more receptive to, right? For your local representation, you have a superintendent, which is your executive person. I mean, you don't get to choose that person, but you do have an executive person. And then you have your local school board members who are kind of like your legislative body. At the state level, it is the same. So there's a state superintendent of schools and then the state school board. Okay, so it kind of mirrors a little bit in how those work. 2 really, really great resources. Vote.utah.gov is basically the site for your personal information voting wise. So if you go to vote.utah.gov, you want to know what party you're registered for or who your representatives are, any of that. It'll have you put in your address, and it will pull up all of your people from President of the United States clear down to your local board member, and it will have usually contact information for all of them and all of that. So you can contact anybody, you can see what's happening. Anytime it's an election year, which it is this year, it will tell you all the candidates that are running for those positions in your area. So this is a really great one for individuals who are looking to get more involved politically or legislatively or any of that. le.utah.gov is a really, really good website. I mean, huge kudos to our legislature for their website. It is phenomenal. There is all kinds of information there. All the code is there. All the bills are there. There's tons of history. There's you name it, you can probably find it if it's related to legislature here. I didn't today. I have it pulled up on my website, and I'm happy to do a tutorial if you guys want.
So that's kind of my
Okay,
presentation.
but anyway, so I didn't really show that. So this is what vote.utah.gov looks like. And this is what le.utah.gov looks like. This is the tab I use the most, bills, and it will sort. It has all the historical bills. It has everything in this year's section. Another thing I really, really recommend, in the corner up here, you can sign up for an account. That is, you all need an account. So, and I'll let Nikki's probably going to cover that. But other places you can find out information, okay? Your city website will have stuff. Some of that's going to be about school stuff, like if they're looking for crossing guards, or they're talking about, are they going to put a crossing guard near a school? That's going to show up on your city website, probably in their city council stuff, okay? District website. Every district has a website. They're all different, but they all have an absolute ton of information. The USBE website has a ton of information. One thing I love about USBE's website is for all of their board meetings, they have a link to all of their board docs and a link to watch the meeting. You can participate in the meeting online. You can just watch it. I like to watch it later because then I can watch it faster than normal speed because they're really long meetings. But if you have just one topic you're interested in, you can scroll down the list of what they're talking about and click on just that and pull up just that, the paperwork for just that, and sometimes it will link right to when they discussed just that item, which is also great. Social media, most representatives, school board members, school districts, they all have social media. They all put information out on it. Also neighbors and friends. So, like I said, some of this is PTA heavy. So, one of the ones I showed them was the Jordan District website because I really like theirs. I would love to see ours be similar to this when we get ours set up. I love that they have each of their people listed. They say what area they are, what their term time is, their phone number and email if they wanted. And then they have kind of where their area is. I really like that because a lot of times people don't know exactly who represents them necessarily. And so I really like having either a link to where your area is or something like that. And then if they have a conflict of interest, well, everybody has to sign a conflict of interest disclosure, but their conflict of interest disclosure. So I really like how Jordan's is. Okay, how can you communicate effectively with, I would say, both people you represent and people that represent you? One thing we have to remember, we're all just people, right? I think when you hear someone has like a title with their name, you kind of assume that they know all the things, right? I don't know all the things. I'm assuming you guys, especially over the last 6 weeks, we're definitely feeling like we do not know all the things. Representatives, some of them might come to the legislature with expertise in certain areas, but they're not going to be experts in every area, and so there are things they don't know. And I think what happens a lot is people are like, well, they have to know that this is going to work like this in my classroom. Well, they might not. So one thing that I have found, legislators want your input. They want to know what you think. They want to know why you think this or that is good or bad, why you think it's needed, why you think it's not needed. They want to know that. But the hard part is their time is very limited, especially if you are only contacting them during the session. Like they're already putting in 15-hour days. They don't have time to read an email that's this long. Like they don't. So anyway, so find out how they prefer to communicate. Do they like emails? Do they want you to text them? Do they prefer you come to a meeting that they're already holding? You know, what do they like? When you reach out, these are my top tips. Say who you are. If you are their constituent, say that. If you aren't, say why this is important to you and why they need to listen to you. Okay, right? So my name's Amber Bonner. I'm a school board member representing blah, blah, blah. This is why I'm concerned about this. Okay? Because sometimes you're going to reach out to legislators that you don't have a connection to, And maybe they're the sponsor of the bill and they are from a rural county and they don't realize that while this is great for rural people, it does this to our district. They just may not know. Okay, keep it short. Like, they don't need a dissertation on why you think this is a problem. 3 to 5 sentences is what I usually tell people. Like, they need it short and to the point. If they want clarification, if you have developed a relationship with them, they will reach out to you for clarification. Most of our legislators are really great about responding and listening and all the things, but they do get really buried. Like, they are really, really busy. So, ways you can communicate. Oh, that's fascinating. Ways you can communicate with legislators. Newsletters, follow them on social media, emails, civic engagement. What is that one supposed to say? Civic engagement. It fixed itself. Phone calls, comment in their meetings, not just in your meetings. Go talk to them. If you see your legislator at the school play, go say hi. I mean, don't like drag them away from their family, but just say hi. Ask them to meet with you sometime. Say, hey, I'm really concerned about this or that. Can I meet with you sometime? Realize that from middle of January till the 1st of March is a bad time, but they would be happy to meet with you probably outside of that time. Text them, ask for a Capitol tour. I will tell you, one of the best things I did when I first started getting legislatively involved, Mike Kennedy was my House rep at the time, and he was great, and we called him and said, hey, we want to bring a load of kids up from Mountain Ridge Junior High and do a tour of the Capitol. Would you help us? Who do we talk to? How do we do that? He did the tour for us, and it was awesome. He literally walked the kids around. He asked them, and I was dumb at the time and didn't realize that during the session, maybe this was not the best time to do this, but he came out of the session, he talked to the kids. They had all kinds of questions for him about some things that were relevant and some things that weren't, but he did all the things. If you are having something, invite them. If you guys hear of something amazing happening at one of your schools or we're having a community night, let's invite them. I think that we as board members have a lot that we could be doing to build relationships with our legislators. And I think one thing I know about all of our legislators is they really care about kids, they really care about schools. Their goal is to make things better. Sometimes there's some disconnect happening, and what they think is making something better is not what we feel is going to make it better. So you've got to have a relationship of some kind. All of these things would help with that, okay? I don't know that you guys really need this, because you hopefully know how to talk to people. Oh, okay. Some of the things that were really interesting to me last year that passed, I'm just going to give you a couple. They passed a bill that gave a very specific list of flag types that can be displayed in schools and in classrooms. So that was a pretty controversial one. They added a half a credit of social studies for students to graduate from high school. That one is basically about studying foundational documents for our government. I was not a fan of this solely because of this. I don't like making more requirements for kids. Like, we already have kids that are having trouble graduating. I don't want to make it more hard, but I think the idea of this class is great. Utah Fits All is the voucher program. They did, last year was the first official year it was in place, and so they found there were a whole bunch of issues, and so they fixed a bunch of those last year. This one was also pretty controversial. They passed a bill that requires firearm safety to be taught in schools at certain grade levels now. So that one was interesting. This one, I hated this one, and this one is back this year, so we need to have some discussions about this one, because I think they are bringing it back, trying to make it veto-proof. This one, okay, give me a second for property taxes. So property taxes, when you get your property tax notice, there's 3 lines on it that all are related to schools, right? First line says minimum basic tax rate, Alpine School District. The second one says, I can't remember, Alpine School District. And the third one is the local charter school levy, and I think it also says Alpine District. So this one goes straight to charter schools. We don't set that, we don't collect it, we don't do anything with that one. This one is interesting. This one is the one that we have control over parts of it. It's made up of 4 different levies, and we set some of them, we don't set all of them, okay? This first one is the minimum basic tax rate. That first one is set by the state and collected by the state. So Alpine District does not collect it, does not set it, has no control over it. Those dollars go back into the education fund, and the state uses those dollars from the minimum basic tax rate to help guarantee that every district has a certain amount of dollars per student, okay? The tricky part about it is districts collect vastly different amounts per student with property taxes, even if the rate was the same. So, for example, Park City has like twice the dollars per student we do. It's because Park City has huge businesses, ski resorts, right? It has a significant portion of its homes are second homes, which means that someone pays property tax on 100% of the value, whereas if it's your primary residence, you only pay on 55%. So then also, they don't have a huge number of students per residence, okay? Because half of those are second homes and nobody's going to school from those homes. Alpine has the opposite of all of those things. So if you look at property taxes statewide, everybody has really different rates that they're charging. Some districts collect a lot of dollars per student, some collect not very many. Alpine is very low, like way below average and near the bottom actually on per student how much we collect in property taxes. That's because we have more kids per residence and we have way more first homes than we have businesses or second homes, okay? So the minimum basic tax rate puts money in a fund that then guarantees that anybody who doesn't reach whatever the set amount is in property tax dollars per student, they'll backfill it with the minimum basic tax rate, okay? So we don't set it, we don't collect it, but it does impact our schools, okay? That one's a little tricky. Park City, in their property tax rate, collects like $15,000 per student, which is way over the max, so they have way more than everybody else per student, but their minimum basic tax rate, 100% of it goes to other districts, okay? Ours, we don't come close to meeting the minimum, so we get a lot of money back from the minimum tax rate. Okay, there you go. This bill was to take the dollars collected from the minimum basic tax rate and put them in the general fund instead of 100% going into the education fund. Then they said what they would do was they would guarantee, whatever amount, and they would give that back to districts, but if there was a difference between what was collected and what they had set, they would keep it in the general fund. Okay, that passed. Governor Cox vetoed it. One of my big concerns with that one was they weren't going to change what the line on your property tax says. So it was still going to say minimum basic tax rate Alpine, but some of it might go to the general fund, which to me felt misleading for voters. Okay, this bill is back. Fillmore's running it. I think it's SB 62 or 65. I can't remember. He's made a few changes, but it's back. This one passed. They lowered the income tax rate. This is the one that all the unions were super upset about. There was a referendum filed, and they ended up pulling the bill. And then this was the one about cell phones. Okay, so those were ones that I thought were interesting this last year or particularly controversial. But since we're getting ready to start again this year, there's going to be lots more. For PTA, I'm already tracking 45 bills. So we'll have to have some discussions what we want to do. I think that's it. That's it. I'm all done.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, I'm happy to, help with whatever I can.
How do we make sure we get your emails about how you're tracking it?
I don't send emails. I track them through,
So go to the source.
Nikki, I have it right here. I was just gonna pull it up for you.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
I track it through my commission with state PTA, but I can send it to you.
To present. So we didn't actually coordinate, and our presentations are very similar. But, so there may be a little bit of overlap, but I think that,
That'll be good for us.
I think mine will be a little bit
Do the
more
purple button
hands-on.
down below.
Yeah,
Which
so
one?
go down,
Present.
just below where you are.
Oh,
There you go.
That
You were
button.
so close.
so close. Okay, there you go.
Okay, so I was asked to present on how the legislature works, and I actually wanted to change it to how it works for you, because the whole point is to make it work for you. You know, that's the only reason they're up there. So if it's not working for you, if you don't know how to interact, you don't know how to affect policy or, you know, give your opinions effectively, then, you know, we need to improve that. So, there's a couple things we're gonna do. So we're gonna go through, first of all, some legislative timelines. Is there a little delay on this?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
There's
I'm
a
like
slight
clicking
delay.
it multiple times. I
It takes
first
a
want to
second.
start talking about the legislative timelines. People talk about the legislative session that's starting next week and it goes to the first week of March and like everything gets done then. It's actually not true. Things happen all year long. In fact, I can tell you, my husband keeps a list during the session of the bills he's going to run the next session, so that at the end of this session, he already has a list of like a few bills he wants to start working on, so that he has a whole year to research and talk to people. So it's a year-long process, in all honesty. The legislative session ends in March. They usually take April off, but then in May they start interim sessions. Interim sessions are different committees. It's 3 days, the third week of every month, and they meet in committee. They start talking about some specific issues that they felt like they needed to study a little bit more. Sometimes they vote on specific committee bills that they work on over a number of months as a committee. And those are important to follow, because if a committee bill that was studied in interim session is passed unanimously in interim, then it can go straight to the floor on the very first day of the session. So if you're ever wondering, like, why are they voting on bills on this first day and there have been no committees? It's because they've been studying those all year long. So those are some of the timelines.
The other thing that's interesting they do in interim this last year, when there's something that they want to know more about, like they've been running a bill, but it doesn't feel like the bill quite fits the problem or whatever, they frequently will do a study of some type about it, and they'll have like the legislative and fiscal analysts or USBE or whoever come in and present about that topic frequently during interim meetings.
Yeah. So like that's what happened with the lease revenue bond a couple of years ago. You know, they felt like, you know, we've got general obligation bonds, lots of different government bodies are running lease revenue bonds. What are we doing about that? Let's study that. And so they spent like the whole off season basically studying that, and then they came up with a committee bill, and then they moved forward with that. And then even during the session, they're able to work with people and nail that down. Another important thing, legislators can request their bill files at the beginning of May. So right now, if you're thinking, oh, I want to run a bill. In fact, we've talked about some problems we've seen, and we're like, oh, we should run a bill to fix that. It's probably not going to happen right now if it was a brand new bill, because those bills have to be written and the bill analysts are underwater right now. But if you have a bill file you're thinking about for the future, you can let them know, you know, hey, we're thinking about, you know, working on the structure of UHSAA, you know, and then you have a couple months and you can say, could you prioritize this bill? Every legislator has 3 bills that they can prioritize, and the time to request those bill files is at the beginning of May. That's kind of the timeline to think
Or
about.
like how we were worried about how code says that your board presidency has to be elected for a 2-year term. Like we could get that in front of a legislator in May and get it fixed.
Yep.
Next year.
Yep, exactly. So the structure of the legislature is really important. I'm gonna show you one quick, fun little video, and then we'll talk about the structure. Is there volume on this?
That would be awesome. But
It looks like your
my
speakers
Wi-Fi.
are muted.
Yes, they are. It's so good that you guys are here to keep me like, okay, why am I muted? Why is it not letting me
This
not
is
mute?
connected to the system.
It could be, yeah, that.
Maybe.
Thanks, Parker.
He's gonna fix me.
Perfect.
I don't know why it's muted. It's not letting me move that or anything.
I wonder. Let's go here. For sound. Then there's no output devices found. So
That's weird.
input, no output. We're connected to the thing.
Because there's no sound. I don't know why. Because I didn't ask for speakers, so. Just kidding.
Well,
Those
we
don't
could
come
always
preloaded.
skip this if
Those
we
don't
need to.
come
It's
preloaded.
just so fun. I don't know if any of you saw this video.
When we set that up, if we told it
Maybe.
in
To
those
automatically.
preferences to send the audio out.
Oh.
I'll have to look at it. You'll have to show us during the break from your device.
Yeah. We can
We'll
just
have
do
it.
that.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Sorry.
Nope, that's okay. We'll come back to it. It's not.
Oh, see how it is muted there?
Amber, can you unmute
Right
it
at the
here?
top? If you hit that,
Oh.
now let's try it.
No, still.
Let's try playing
Yeah.
it. Let's see if it'll work.
Because it might be
When you play
controlled by
it.
the system rather than the computer.
Okay, how do I?
So if you go back to the presentation
Yeah,
mode.
it's not letting me go back to the presentation.
Yeah,
Now, why is that?
that's a good question.
I'm so glad when the tech guy says that's a good question. 'Cause
Yeah,
that makes me
it
feel like
makes
less
you
of an
feel-
idiot.
Yeah. Hit the sharing desktop button at the very top in the middle,
Very top of the middle.
next to the red
up here?
stop.
Oh, right there.
But don't stop,
There you
there you
go.
go.
There we go. Okay.
Thanks, buddy.
Let's see if this'll do it though.
Go back to present and down to that purple button.
Okay, try again.
All right.
Round 2. No.
It
No.
doesn't sound. It's okay. I'll show it to you in the break, but it's super fun, and we can send it out. But
Nikki's like, I found the best video.
it is a very fun video. But we'll talk about the structure of the ledge. Basically, the legislature is the lawmaking branch, and that's important because you have the House and the Senate. The House is, oh, that's so funny, I forgot to put those. But the House is responsible for the budgets. There's 75 representatives, and one thing that's unique that you'll notice, they spend their first 3 weeks of the session refining the budgets. Utah is kind of best practices of all of the states because we work from a zero-based budget and we work up. Our Constitution actually forbids the legislature from deficit spending, which is amazing. We're one of the only states that does that. The Senate, there's 29 senators. Each one represents about 100,000 people, and they have the express stewardship over the judiciary, so they do the judge confirmations. And then Article 8 of the Constitution also has like 12 or 15 specific ways that they're supposed to make rules and set budgets and kind of give oversight to the judiciary. Really, really important is the way that the legislature works in committee. And the more that people can understand how that work unfolds is the way that they can affect policy. So there's standing committees. Those are most of the committees that you see during the legislative session. Business and Labor, the Education Committee, the Natural Resources Committee, you know, the ones that you're familiar with. The Appropriations Committees are the ones that deal with the funding and how the budgets are appropriated. And so what's really important to understand is those first 3 weeks that set the budget. We always talk about ongoing funds. So everything that we have committed to pay in the past is part of that ongoing base budget. And then that is set. Then they can start their work for the rest of the bills for the session. And even if you pass a bill, if there's no money to fund it after the fact, then it might not go into effect. So you see that happen a lot. So you'll want to watch the appropriations budget committees because that's where you'll see how much money is going to be left over to spend after those base budgets of ongoing funding. Interim committees are what happens in between the legislative sessions. We talked a little bit about that. You will see confirmation committees. Those happen a lot in between sessions, but they also happen during the session. And then other committees that you've heard of, you know, there's commissions. There's the Federalism Commission, Water Development, Military Affairs. There's an Ethnic Studies Commission. There's a ton of commissions that kind of operate outside the normal system. Task forces like school security and work groups like medical cannabis, things like that. Okay, so we talked a little bit about how awesome le.utah.gov. This is like your skeleton key to all things legislature. So I want to go through it with you. So this is the homepage that you drop on. Anytime you go to it, whether you're on a computer or a mobile device, you'll have the calendar. You can click on any day, and then the calendar for that day pops up. It goes by hour, by committee. You can click on this little paper. That's the agenda. The agenda has all of the members, all of the bills that'll be there. This little location pin will tell you what building, what room that committee is meeting in, and then it'll also put on your calendar right there.
If you click on the agenda, they also, click on the meeting, it usually will take you to their landing page, and that's also where you can watch the meeting from. Like they'll have it live streaming from there. Oh, look at Nikki.
So
we should have coordinated a little.
I know.
It's all good.
No, that's what I was thinking.
This is good. It's different.
This is like, two witnesses of everything. Right? So we're gonna have some choose your own adventure time. You can choose how you will follow the legislative session this year because you might approach it differently depending on what you're looking for. So I generally think of it in 4 ways. So maybe you want to follow your legislator or a specific legislator. So if you're going to find your legislator, you would go to that homepage, you would look up your legislator, you can see and access all of the committees they serve on, find contact information, you can sign up for their newsletters and more. So I'll give you an example. Here is Ariel DeFay. She's a House rep up in Davis County. When you navigate to her page, it shows you her district, what county she serves in, how long she's been a legislator. Here's her contact information. If you want to see what legislation she's running, you click there and it'll display it all.
It'll also say at the top if they're in legislative leadership.
And you can also click there's a legislative leadership page if you want to find that out. But here's their committees. And so for instance, if this is your legislator and you want to be able to follow them, you can click on all of their committees and see when they're going to be where. So I like following Ariel because she is on the Education Interim Committee. She's on the House Education Committee. She's on some of the transportation committees, which are always really important. So this is a good way to follow your legislator. If you click on those hyperlinked committees, it will take you to those committee pages, which takes me to the next one. If you want to just follow by committee, since we're school board members, we'll likely be trying to follow the Education Committee, the Senate one and the House one, because every bill has to go through both sides, and it's really important to follow the way that bills kind of unfold and how they're edited and amended during that process. You'll also want to follow the Education Appropriations Committee. And then outside of the session, important work's done in those interim committees as well. So we were just about to talk about how you can click on the Education Committee, make sure you're on the year, or if you are clicking off of somebody's page, it will take you directly. So this is the committee information page. It always starts in this left column with the leadership. So, on this House Education Committee, Neil Walters the chair, Ariel's the vice chair, and then it tells you who all of the members of it. This is also important so that you know who are the staff. The staff of the committees will be able to help you know where bills are in the process, if there's amendments. If you show up at a room and it's not there, you can ping them to find out if it's been moved. Right here it shows you the dates the committee's meeting. So if you want to go up in person or if you want to watch a committee meeting, you can click on these dates, and then this area will usually fill with links to join. Okay, another way to follow is by bill. Maybe you've heard of a specific bill that you're really concerned about or you're really excited about. So if you go to the specific bill and you want to look up exactly what it is, you can click on that. So this is an example this is an example of this session. So SB 88 school technology amendments. This is what you would see. You would see who the Senate sponsor is, who the House sponsor is. The one who's listed first tells you where it's going to start. So this bill will start in the Senate. And that's an important thing to understand. Down on this side of it, you have the text of the bill. It always starts with kind of a summary. It gives you some definitions. Below that, you'll start to see text that looks like this. Black is the text that has been in existence and it's being unchanged. Red is brand new text. So a lot of people, a lot of new legislators especially are like, I just can't read the whole bill. It's so much to read. There's 80,000 lines of new bills, but it's actually not true because the only thing new is the red. Everything else has already been approved and it's not changing if it's black. Now the blue with the strike through is being removed. So in this bill you can see, like right here, this blue strike through, it's just changing code numbers. And so a lot of times that's just some technical alignment that the staff has said, oh, this changed, now we're in this number, and so they're doing that at the same time they're making other amendments on this policy. Also, if you're looking at the bill file, so we were looking at this part, the bill text, you can click on this middle tab, which is status. This is one of my favorite pages to follow bills because it starts with what happened first and it tells you the progress. So there's the date, there's the time, there's the action. So if you're watching a bill, it'll like tell you when a new version has come out. It tells you where the bill is. You know, all bills go into the rules committee for its chamber. So this is a different bill file, sorry I switched. But this was a House bill, so it was in House Rules Committee, and then the House Rules Committee has to determine where they're gonna send the bill. It's usually pretty easy for education because they'll send it to the Education Committee. But so you can follow that. Here you can see during the House Committee on January 31st, they had a vote on an amendment of the bill, and there were 12 votes in favor, 0 against, and there were 4 abstentions. And then after that amendment was accepted to change the bill, the next line was a vote to approve this particular bill, and that passed with 10 votes in favor, 3 against, and 3 abstentions. And if you click on these numbers, it will actually show you exactly who voted for it, who voted against it, and who maybe wasn't in the room, had to go to a committee of their own. So this is really great. The smaller numbers you can tell if you haven't correlated it here with it's a committee. The larger numbers are obviously the full House votes. And then something that's interesting, you may or may not know, but in the House they have 1 vote. In the Senate they have to vote twice on each bill. So it's kind of an interesting way of doing things. Finally, if you want to go through the legislative website by day, maybe something happened last week on Thursday, they were running a bill, but you don't remember exactly what committee or what bill, you could go to that date and then see, oh, there it was in the Education Committee, click on it that way. Or if you're planning to be up there, I'm gonna be up there on Friday of the first week of the session, and you want to plan your day, visit some of the committees all day long, then you can schedule it that way. So this is a look if you go into the calendar with the month view. You can see on the 20th, which is actually the first day, this is the whole schedule. And all of these have clickable links with locations, agendas. Where this is last week, they did have some committee work going on. If you want to go back and watch some of these, for instance, the Senate Education Confirmation Committee, you could press play and then you could go back and watch it. So like Amber mentioned, I almost never watch things live because it's so slow, but if you want to wait a couple hours, then you can watch it at up to 3 times speed, which is amazing.
Which I can't do.
Yeah. Another thing, if you are watching it live, and I don't have a good picture of this, but it's really helpful if you are leading a meeting or we're going to come together as a school board. Maybe there was a discussion in one of the committees about a problem or the application of the law that you're like, oh, that might affect us. You can go into the video of that committee and you can do a video clip and it'll save onto your computer or your screen. So that's a really great tool. I've used that a lot to be able to, you know, I don't have to keep notes. I just need that 30-second clip and then I can present that and let you see it verbatim. So, are you guys ready to practice? Go to, on a web screen, on a web page, go to le.utah.gov. You can do it on your phone if you want to, or you can do it on a computer.
I've been following along with you. Practice.
She gets an A.
Let me see, I think that I wrote it down. Okay, the first thing we're gonna do, I want you to find your house rep, your personal house rep. So if you don't know who it is, then you'll have to go find your legislator. If you do know who it is, go to their personal or their legislator page and tell me how many bill files your house rep currently has public. And that's an important distinction because some bill files aren't public because they might not be done yet. I know that there's a lot of legislators at this point begging their bill analysts or their bill writers to get their bill file written, and there's kind of a tug back and forth because there's just so many bills. And then just let me know when you find it who your legislator is and how many bill files they have public. Another trick, if you are on your mobile.
Hey, Nikki.
Yeah.
I've been trying to follow as best as I can. I found that KJ Christopherson is my legislature, which I already knew, but how do I find the bills he's got running?
Okay, are you on your phone or on your computer?
Laptop.
Pardon?
Laptop.
Your laptop? Okay, so click on legislators and then go to the House in that center column. And then you can see his picture pops up in a circle, and to the right is some contact information underneath his email and that.
Is a brown bar.
And I go from legislators to roster.
Legislator page.
Yeah, once you're on the home page, there's a black bar that goes across the top. It says Utah Legislature, then to the right of that it says Legislators. And you can click on that.
Right.
And then when you click on that, the middle column says House.
Yep.
And then scroll down to the middle where it says Roster.
Okay.
And then you can
And
either,
I'll find K.
well, you can sort either by district number or you can make it alphabetical. I'm pretty sure his district is 53.
Yeah, it's 56.
So if you want to just scroll that way. Alright. And then click on his page. And then do you see underneath contact information, there's a Facebook symbol, and then there's a brown rectangle that says View Sponsored Legislation.
Hang on, my internet connection isn't very good, I'll tell you.
Oh.
So I found K, District 53, I clicked on him. Oh, view sponsored legislation, there it is.
Perfect.
Okay, great.
And then if you notice on this page in particular, there is the second column from the left says bill number, and those bill numbers are hyperlinked, and you can click on those and it will bring up the bills directly for you. Okay, great job. The next one we're gonna do is we're gonna see who is the chair of the House Education Committee. If you don't already know it.
What'd you say? Sorry.
I said who it was.
So go to the committees, back on that home page, that bar at the top that goes to the right of Utah State Legislature, that's constant from the home page. So go to standing committees if you're going at it from that direction. And then you'll want to make sure that you are in the 2026 year. And we're looking for the House Education Committee. So I think on this one it is the third one down. And then the right side is where you can see the committee information. And they always have the chair listed first. So who is the chair of the House Education Committee?
Neil Walter.
Neil Walter.
R.
Neil Walter, great.
It's represented.
Okay.
Oh, no,
No,
that's his
it
first name,
doesn't.
sorry.
Yeah. Okay, this one's a little bit trickier. I want you to go find SB 188 from the 2025 general session. So you'll want to go back to that bills go to the tab that says bills, and then instead of staying in the 2026 session, you're gonna want to go back and choose 2025 general session. And it lists the special sessions, so you have to read well.
You said SB.
SB 188. Yeah, so this one's a little bit trickier. There's a few ways that you can do it. Did you say special session? No, it's the general. Do you guys remember who ran SB 188?
Grover.
Grover was the senator,
I'm like, I can.
and Gracious was the representative, because she's on the west side. That's a great way to do it too.
I don't know.
Yep,
Just
got
the
it.
regular?
SB 188. Yeah, so you two did it in two different ways, and so I just wanted you to see that there's several ways you can get there. It's fairly intuitive, but you just have to keep reading and keep clicking. Okay, and then last of all, if you go back to the home page, just click on Utah State Legislature in that top left corner to get back to the home landing page.
Is there a reason why you picked the dry needling?
Why what?
Why you picked the dry needling bill?
Dry needling? No, it's not HB 188, it's SB 188. I know, 'cause that's easy to do.
That was a trick question for
H
you.
to the S matters.
Attention to detail.
And that was easy.
No, but
to
that happens
happen.
all the time,
It does.
right?
It
Like,
happens easily.
Happens all the
Even in the
time.
media,
Yeah.
sometimes they'll call it the wrong SB and not HB. So totally
Okay, the
common.
school district modifications
Yeah.
makes a lot more sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
so that's why I chose it, because this one we use and reference
Yeah.
a lot. Okay, so go back to the home page, the landing page, and I want you to just look at the calendar, find a way to click on, oh, you know what, I didn't mean July 23rd, I meant January 23rd.
I was gonna say, cause it says nothing for July.
Yeah.
I have like summer dreams on my mind.
Right.
Me too.
Okay.
For January
There's a
23rd,
lot going on.
tell me one thing that you noticed that's on there, and you can all probably say something
Public
different
ed
about it.
approach.
Yeah. The subcommittee.
Transportation and infrastructure appropriations.
IGG, infrastructure and general government. Oh, transportation and infrastructure.
A lot of committee meetings.
Yeah.
A lot.
There's a House Law Enforcement Criminal Justice Committee at 2 p.m.
Yeah. So that's a great way to just be able to see, what's going on each day and be able to kind of navigate around as needed. Do you have any questions for me how to navigate through le.utah.gov?
The only other thing I would say is if you create an account for every committee, for every legislator, for every bill, you can say, track bill, follow legislator, whatever, and it will shoot you an email, like,
For the upcoming
for
committees?
anything that's happening. So like if you wanna follow the House Ed Committee, and you follow the committee, it will shoot you an email every time they have a new agenda come out, every time they approve their minutes from the last month. So, sometimes that's really helpful. I don't
Yeah.
usually do it for bills because I should, but I follow a lot and I don't want that many emails. But, but it's great for following a legislator or a specific committee, cause it'll send you the agenda before their meeting happens, so.
I have followed specific bills, and so that's great because it will email me any changes, any amendments, any revisions.
When it passes one and goes to a committee or a, whatever, and it moves, it'll tell you when it's moving.
It'll give me the agenda if it's gonna appear in the committee tomorrow, and that's probably the hardest thing, is to track when it's gonna be in a committee, because a lot of times it'll be the night before that they decide to load it onto a committee.
Yeah, so if
So-
there's one you really care about, tracking it is by far the best way. Cause also a lot of it sometimes takes a day or two before they catch up with what's posted online. So it's better if you follow it, it'll email you quicker than if you log online to look at what it says. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, and I was just gonna add, for most legislators, if they are your legislators where you are an elected official, most of the time if you let them know who you are, you're following certain bills, Text is easiest for them to keep up with. And then I would even say, I know that working with interns of legislators is a great way to get on their schedules. So like my husband has his intern schedule people to walk with him between buildings, and that's how he talks to people that want to talk about different things. Not so much constituents, but business leaders or lobbyists that want to talk to him. Like he's got 5 minutes walking from the Senate building to the House building, So that's a great way to interact that way.
Also, look at the schedule and realize that when it says floor time, you can go up and sometimes they'll step out of floor time, but it means they're missing votes. So if you can talk to them at a time that's not floor time, they would really appreciate that so that they're on the floor voting when there's voting happening.
And sometimes they'll let you go sit with them.
Yeah.
I know that lots of the elected officials Brady works with will say, come sit with me, let's talk on the floor. So that's a great way to get some face time as well. All right, I will return the meeting to you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Well, I think we have learned a lot. Okay. If there is no further business, our study session is adjourned right on time. The time is 5:29. Thank you. You guys. Welcome. The regular meeting of the Aspen Peak School Board of Education will now come to order. The time is 6:03 p.m. All board members are present except Jason Thieler, who will shortly be joining us remotely. Board Member Hart will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. At this time, Board Member Brammer will lead our reverence.
So last meeting in December, this portion of the meeting was called Inspirational Thought, and Jean Marie did a phenomenal job. I loved what she shared. This week it's called Reverence, which is a change and unique, but it's meant to give us time to reflect reverently. I did a little bit of research because last month it struck me as a surprise that we did an inspirational thought instead of a prayer. So I went and looked at all of the cities and Utah County Commission and the state legislature to see how they open their public meetings when they are doing the business of the people. And so I've asked Darren Draper if he can project a slide. I wasn't able to put all of the images that I researched. However, this slide is going to show you a few. In the upper left corner, you see a picture from day 29 of the 2025 general session. That's actually Mayor Michelle Kafusi saying the prayer, and it's labeled as the prayer, pledge, and quorum, and that's the portion of the session that begins the general session. To the right of that image, you have the Lehigh City Council meeting agenda from January 6th, 2026. And in item number 1, they call it welcome and opening comment. But I called the city council members and I said, tell me about your opening comment. And they said, oh, that's basically a prayer. To the right of that one, you have American Fork. This is the city council agenda from December 9th, 2025. And if you go down towards the middle, towards the bottom of that image, item number 1 under regular session, it says Pledge of Allegiance. And then it says invocation by council member Ernie John. And then they do a roll call to establish their quorum. Underneath that image, you have the city of Alpine that we represent, and on their Alpine City Council agenda for January 13th, just this week. Item number 1B, they have a prayer that they list that was said by Chrissy Hanneman, one of their city council members. To the left of that, you have Cedar Hills and their city council meeting from December 2nd. If you go under council meeting item 1, they have call to order, pledge led by C. Morgan, and invocation given by Mayor Anderson. So, I was thinking about why these bodies have a prayer or an invocation as opposed to a moment of reverence. And I was reflecting on that a little bit. And I know that we talk a lot about the separation of church and state. And as an educational institution, I hope that we are properly teaching the importance of church and state and not teaching it incorrectly. Now, I grew up in Southern California, in Orange County, in a town called Yorba Linda, and it had a subtitle, The Land of Gracious Living, which is like the funniest subtitle, right? But the idea that they cultivated from the time that they started was that they wanted to cultivate religious pluralism. They wanted to respect people's faiths. And I remember going to city council meetings, and every time there was a different religion that was kind of featured. So, there was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that would offer a prayer. Then the next week it might have been a Protestant member, a Baptist, a Jew, a Muslim, a Buddhist. And for me as a child growing up, it was so enlightening to see how all these people came together to offer blessings for our elected officials. Now, I do just want to close by offering this thought. If we offer a moment of reverence, it's very singular. We each might take a moment to reflect reverently, individually, as opposed to a prayer where one person stands up. In a prayer, they typically will offer gratitude and ask for blessings. And I think a lot about what our school district needs, and we need to share our gratitude for those who spend hours and hours each day teaching our children, protecting our children, supporting our teachers. I think it would be so positive to let our teachers and our employees hear as we have our community offer requests for blessings for them in whatever religion and whatever way they want to, but to hear that we care about them and we want all the best for them. And so for today, I'm going to offer a prayer, but in the future, instead of mixing it up, calling it an inspirational thought or a reverence or an opening comment, let's just call it a prayer or an invocation, because our community knows what that is. I looked up the Pew Research Center, the attitudes of religion in the state of Utah. Over 50% have reported that they pray at least one time a day in our community. So if there's anybody that would like to offer well wishes or other inspirations, they would be welcome to do so. There's a few different ways to do this. In the city councils, they have the council members that simply offer a prayer, basically. In the legislature, they assign it to each legislator so that they can invite someone from their community to come up. So I know that my House Representative, Brady Brammer, he reached out to Chief Mary Meyer, who is the chief of the Timpanogos Indian tribe once, and she went up and she offered a blessing, and that was wonderful. So this isn't something that needs a vote, but I did want to share that thought with you. I wanted to open it up to the community. If you have feedback or if you have strong feelings, we would love to hear that. But otherwise, I'd love to simply call it an invocation or a prayer moving forward, because that's probably what it'll be. So with that, I will offer a prayer to begin this meeting. Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for this day, and we're grateful that we can meet together to do the people's business in the Aspen Peak School District. We ask thee to please bless us and guide us with thoughts that will serve our students and serve our teachers. We're so grateful for the love that our teachers put into their jobs every day and into building our students. We're grateful to the administrators and the support professionals that help to make our schools run smoothly, and we ask you to bless them in all that they do. And we ask for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. We will now move into our scheduled public hearing. Do I have a motion to close the board meeting?
I move to close the board meeting and open our public hearing.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. We have a motion from, goodness, hello. We have a motion from Board Member Bonner and a second from Board Member Burrows to close our board meeting and open our public meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. The voting has been unanimous. Do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
I move that we open the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Board Member Sparty and a second from Board Member Hart to open the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. The voting has been unanimous. The board will now move into the public hearing, which is being held to consider a change in board compensation, to offer board members the option to either receive District Plan A health insurance at no cost or a stipend equal to the monthly cost of District Plan A health insurance for a single party, retroactive to the first offered month of coverage. The time is 6:13 p.m., and this hearing is for the purpose of receiving public comment. A sign-up sheet was available before the meeting began to allow patrons the opportunity to speak. Those living outside of Aspen Peak School District and those who were unable to sign up before the meeting could submit written comments. Darren, do I need to say that entire website? I'll just say it. At alpineskools.org/o/aspen-peaks-district/page/board. As you are called up, please introduce yourself by stating your name and what city you live in. You will be given up to 3 minutes to speak. And while the board does not engage in a discussion during the public comment period, they may arrange to communicate with you later. First up is Brianna Hugh. Yeah, it's over there. Here you go. That's perfect. Good thinking.
Okay, sorry, I just know for like the public record, sometimes it's hard to hear stuff. So here we go. Okay, I won't need 3 minutes. You don't even need to do the timer. So 3 things. Number 1, I fully support you guys having that in lieu. Is it working now? Yay, okay. That's better, so I'm like straddling that. Okay, yeah, that's awesome. I fully support you guys doing the in lieu, that you get the stipend in lieu of the thing. My one request is please offer the employees the same option. As a half-time employee who is the second income in my home, I would absolutely love to have that stipend instead of insurance. My husband's insurance is way better than mine. So I'd love the stipend. Second thing, as you talk about the calendar, whoa, this is not really related to the public, so I'll just say this now because I have to go pick up kids from soccer. As you think about the calendar, one of my proudest moments ever was walking into the school on January 5th and having a minute to breathe and get my seating charts and my new courses loaded and everything all ready to go with no kids. And it was great. I didn't have to come in on my winter break and all of that. So as you think about your calendars for the future, please put that in. That would be just, we would love you forever. Third thing, I just want to compliment you on the superintendent review committee. That was seamless, beautiful process. I really enjoyed it. And I do not envy you. You have a very tough decision. So thank you for all that you do, and I will just be watching. That sounded ominous. I'm not watching you. I'm picking up kids from soccer and watching your game. Thank you.
Thank you, we appreciate that. Hearing no further public comment, the public hearing is now closed and the time is 6:17 p.m. We will now return to the regular board meeting. Do I have a motion to reopen the Aspen Peaks board meeting?
I move that we, what is it?
Reopen.
Reopen the board meeting.
And I second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Board Member Sparty and a second from Board Member Burrows to reopen the board meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The voting has been unanimous, and we will now reopen the board meeting. Darren, do we have any public comments? Okay, we sort of just had one, so we'll count that. So can I just move on to the next agenda item? Thank you. Okay. The first item of our routine business is the approval of minutes from the December 11th board meeting and the January 2nd study session. Do we have a motion for those items?
Are we doing all the routine business at once? Or not? Okay. So I move to approve the minutes from December 11th and January 2nd meetings.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we had a motion from Board Member Bonner and a second from Board Member Brammer to approve the minutes from the December 11th board meeting and the January 2nd study session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The voting has been unanimous. The next item is the approval of the expenditure report for the month ending December 31st, 2025. As we do not have a superintendent, I have looked over the claims and found everything to be in order. Do we have a motion to approve the expenditure report for the month ending December 31st, 2025?
I move that we approve the expenditure report.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We had a motion from Board Member Sparty and a second from Board Member Bonner to approve the expenditure report for the month ending December 31st, 2025. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The voting has been unanimous. The first item in our discussion action items is a change in board member compensation. And it is to consider changing board compensation to offer board members the option to either receive District Plan A health insurance at no cost or a stipend equal to the monthly cost of District Plan A health insurance for a single party, retroactive to the first offered month of coverage. We will turn some time over to Board Member Brammer for information about this.
Sure. Just as a review, so SB 188 was the state law that stipulates that we adopt ASD policies for all of the personnel issues for the first year. And so we have chosen to adopt ASD's current board compensation policy. Currently, the Alpine School District board members receive health insurance benefits. And so we have also included a line item in our budget to pay premiums for the 7 board members on the Aspen Peak School District. Additionally, we would like to offer a stipend in lieu of health insurance because many of us already have health insurance through other means. So the stipend would be the equivalent of the cost of a single party plan, which is currently $849 per month, or about 1/3 the total cost. Since most of the board would be using the family plan, paying the stipend will be much less expensive and will be able to save the district money. This results in a significant savings to our district and to the taxpayer.
Do we have a motion about the change in board member compensation?
I move to change board compensation to offer board members the option to either receive District Plan A health insurance at no cost or a stipend equal to the monthly cost of District Plan A health insurance for a single party, retroactive to the first offered month of coverage.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion from Board Member Hart and a second from Board Member Bonner to change board compensation. We will now open it up for discussion.
I have to say, I think this is a great idea. I love that it's saving the district money, but also continuing to have, board members don't have a ton of benefits, and so it's nice to be able to keep a benefit, but also save the district quite a bit of money. So I'm happy with the trade-off there.
I just want to add that we talk to other city councils and other elected officials to see what they do in their city councils, and they offer a similar stipend in lieu of health insurance at a cost savings for the taxpayers as well. And also, when I used to work full-time, it was also offered to the employees. So it's nothing new, but it is a great way to compensate employees.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, we will vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. The voting has been unanimous to adopt, to change board compensation to offer board members the option to either receive District Plan A health insurance at no cost or a stipend equal to the monthly cost of District Plan A health insurance for a single party retroactive to the first offered month of coverage. The next item is adopting policy 9092, school district calendars. We will turn the time over to Steve Sparty, to Board Member Sparty, to give us some background.
It's all right. I don't need a title. So the Aspen Peaks Board of Education adopts school year calendars that comply with state instructional requirements and promote effective teaching, learning, and predictable planning for families and staff. So through this policy, the board establishes the expectations and boundaries governing how school year calendars are developed and brought forward for consideration. The board expects the calendar development process to include transparent communication and opportunities for public feedback. The superintendent is responsible for developing school year calendars that meet these expectations, and all calendars shall be submitted to the board for review and approval in an open public meeting in accordance with law and district policy. So I move that we approve policy 9092.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it, but I would like to clarify that the policy will allow us to approve more than one calendar at a time.
Yes, that is true. We can do a single year or multi-year.
Previous
calendar.
policy only allowed for 1 year at a time.
Thank you. We have a motion from Board Member Sparty and a second from Board Member Bonner to adopt policy 9092, school district calendars. We will now open it up for discussion. We'll do some discussion on the next part, so here we go. Is there any, let's see, all in favor?
I just make a quick
Yes.
Discussion. So I know we've gotten a lot of feedback from a lot of teachers about that extra day at winter break. We have gone through the calendars. We've looked at, the future years, and sometimes depending on where Christmas ends up falling, anyway, it causes some other issues. But I know at least for the 27-28 year, that was something that we looked at in keeping. So
Just to clarify, we are going to pass this policy that allows us to approve more than one calendar year at a time, and then we'll go in and talk about those other things. So
sorry.
that's totally fine. All right. All in favor of adopting policy 9092 about school district calendars, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. The voting has been unanimous. The next item is approving the ASD or Alpine School District calendars for 3 years. The first year is 2027 to 2028, 2028 to 29, and then 29 to 30. I'm going to give you a little bit of information. Creating calendars is extremely complex. Alpine School District formed a committee that considered numerous issues And it consisted of various stakeholders, including parents, students, and teachers. One of the most requested items was to have the first day back in January be a teacher work day. Funny story. Last week, I attended a school community council meeting where I received feedback about how wonderful it was to have that work day, along with a request to continue that moving forward. As a school teacher myself, recently retired, I smiled all day on Monday, January 5th. I even made a post about how I couldn't stop smiling that this was a teacher work day. So I just responded that they would have to kill me before I ever let teacher work day first day back in January be discontinued. So imagine my horror shortly thereafter when I dove into this calendar process and discovered that it isn't as easy as one might think. So the first calendar of these 3 years that we put out there works out well and was able to address the most requested items. There are more than just that teacher work day. However, because of when Christmas occurs in 2028 and 2029, it wasn't possible to have a teacher work day on the first day back in January. So after much deliberation, it was decided that for those 2 tricky years, they would put the teacher work day as the last day before the break in December, but this would be considered a flexible work day. So under the direction of supervisors, teachers will be able to choose when to meet those hours during the break. This flexible work day was tried 2 years ago with great success. So with that introduction, let's first, do we have a motion to approve the Alpine School District calendars for 2027 to 28, 28 to 29, and 29 to 30?
I'll move to accept the 2027, 28, and then 2028, 29, and 2029, 30 calendars that Alpine District had previously approved, with the caveat that the second and third years that work day would be a flexible day for teachers to be able to use whenever they would like over the break, rather than to be a specific day.
Thank you. Do we have a second? We have a motion from Board Member Bonner and a second from Board Member Burrows to approve the Alpine School District calendars for 2027 to 28, 2028 to 29, and 29 to 30, with the stipulation that on the last 2 years, the work day, the last day in December, is a flexible work day, and teachers will be able to choose when they would like to meet those hours over the break under the direction of their supervisor. We will now open that up for discussion.
So it was so funny. Diane and I were discussing the calendar, and we were discussing how many teachers had told us how much they loved that Monday being a work day. And we were like, well, we should just do that forever. And then, of course, we started looking at it, and we were like, oh. So originally we discussed, well, why don't we just make it the Friday before school starts? Then it's the day before. But then we realized that cuts off a whole weekend. So we kind of back and forth about it, and we thought, well, maybe they could just do the day whenever. And then we were thrilled to then find out that that's pretty much what Alpine had already planned on doing. So I'm excited about it. I love giving teachers flexibility. I don't think any teachers don't put in a day's worth of work over Christmas break. So I love that they can work that around whenever works for what they're doing with their family and over those 2 weeks. So I think it's a great idea.
Further discussion.
Yes, I actually ran into a teacher at the mall over the break, and she told me, it is so great. I have not thought about school once this whole break because I have that day back, and I know that she already had things planned, but she could review them and make her copies that next day. So I'm a hands-on person, so I printed this out so that I could circle my other things because I was worried that we only remembered the day after Christmas break because that was the last break we had, right? So I went through my mom head and I was like, okay, which dates are really important to me? And I thought of daylight savings time, how this last year we happened to have it off, but we hadn't in previous years. And that first day back after that time change is really, really difficult. I was very happy to see that those were addressed in here. Very happy to see that. I had remembered how great Halloween was this year because we didn't have to go to school the next day. That is not addressed here except for it happens to be that 2027, 2028 year. But Halloween's gonna be on a Sunday, so I don't know if that really helps. But I do see that both Halloween and daylight savings time come 1 week apart from each other, so we can't give 2 Mondays off in a row, I don't think. So I think that less sleep trumps sugar high, right? I don't know. If teachers have feedback for me, send it to me. So those were just some things that I looked at on this calendar before I wanted to approve it because, like I said before, I didn't want us just to concentrate on only the holiday that we had most recently.
Are there comments?
Diane, I'd like to make some comments as well. So I also received so much feedback. Teachers sent emails thanking for the additional day at the beginning of the January 5th. I had teachers calling me, say how life-changing it was for them to enjoy their entire break, and I would love to continue supporting that. Likewise, I was so concerned that the 28, 29, and the 29, 20, 30 calendars did not allow for that. At the same time, given all of the feedback that I heard from teachers for how much they loved having that first day back as a non-student day and a professional work day, I have heard as much, if not more, feedback from parents going back to my campaign that they hate coming back to school the second week of August. The feedback I have received is they don't think they should ever come back before the 20th of August because it feels too early. Was this year August 13th? Do you guys remember? I think it was the 13th this year. And most parents were just shocked and they felt like their summer was stolen from them because August used to be a month of summer and now it kind of isn't. And so for these reasons, I intend to make an amendment or an alternative motion. And I don't know if it will be supported or not, but I would be more comfortable approving the 27-28 calendar and making sure that everyone knows that's approved and we'll be moving forward. But I would love a chance to address the concerns with the 28-29 and the 29-20 30 calendars. I work with a lot of gifted coordinators in other districts, and we plan a summer conference every year the second week of June. And so we're always juggling schedules with the end dates of all of the districts. Many districts are going into the week of Memorial Day. There are some districts that ended the first week of June, which may be too late for me, but when my kids were younger, we typically had a few days after Memorial Day. I don't know if parents would rather have that or rather come back the second week of August, but it's something that I would love to give our communities a chance to give us feedback. I'd love to hear more feedback from teachers. I know that my kids, the month of May is kind of weird now. They're done with school the first week of May, and then the rest of the month of May, they're kind of making up work or doing fun projects, field days and whatnot. And so I'd love to figure out how can we make this work so that we're not coming back so early and we can still make sure that those May dates of instruction are useful. So I would like to make an amendment to what's on the floor. I don't know if this is totally how it goes, but I move to amend the current motion to approve 2027 to 2028 calendar and simply table the 2028 and 29 and 29-30 calendars. And it doesn't mean that we won't approve those as is, but it will give us time to collect more feedback from teachers and student families.
A motion has been, hold on. A motion has been made to change that original motion so that we just adopt 1 year instead of 3 years and table the other 2. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Board Member Grammer and a second by Board Member Hart to change the term of our motion from 3 years to 1 year and just adopt the 2027 to 28 calendar at this time. Is there any discussion on our amendment?
So I'm going to be voting against this, and I will tell you why. When I was serving on the board and when my older kids were in school, we had this crazy thing where first semester, second term ended like 10 days into January. And I hated it because it felt not for teachers, not for kids. It just felt like teachers would assign like a really big paper to be due the day before Christmas, and then teachers would be grading all of Christmas break. Or my kids would be like, oh, I have to study on Christmas break because they'd have a final the first week of January or whatever because it was the very end of the term. And so the term would sometimes end on like the 8th or 9th of January, and I hated that. So when I was serving on the Alpine board before, we sent out a survey to parents and asked if they would rather have the term end before Christmas and have to start earlier in August, or if they'd rather start later in August and have the term end after Christmas. And the feedback was overwhelming that they'd rather start earlier. The reason why you have to start earlier is because the halfway point of the year is in mid-January. And so if you want semester 1 and semester 2 to be equal, or at least close to equal in length, you either have to start in mid-August or even a little bit earlier than we'd like in August, or you have to have the term end after Christmas break. And I know that I've heard from a lot of teachers over the last few years about how much better they like it, having the term end before Christmas. But I would say the feedback from parents that I've heard has been absolutely overwhelming, that they way prefer the semester ending before Christmas rather than after. And so I think I am not at all opposed to sending out a survey and asking, our parents to rank what calendar things they want the most. But I do know, as the parent of a secondary student who did that, it was the worst. I really, really hated it. And so I don't love that we start quite so early in August. I wish we could figure out I wish we could take a few days from January to May and put them in November, but we're not allowed to do that. So if you look at the calendars now, we already have fourth term is by far the longest, which they did on purpose because you have testing days and you have all the end of the year things happening and all of that. And so they did that on purpose so that the number of instructional days is very close to similar in each term. And I worry that if we push school back a week, then if you're looking at these, we're looking at cutting 7 days from term 1 and term 2 and adding them to term 3 and term 4. For teachers, that means that the kids that have that class first semester are not going to receive all of the instruction they would receive second semester. So I'll vote against that for that reason.
Any further discussion on this amendment?
Yes, I'd like to. So first off, since I didn't get a chance to chime in with the day before, or with Christmas break as a teacher, I would have loved to have that. I remember there were a couple times where I was back at the schools on January 2nd, on like a Friday, January 2nd. And so I think that is, we owe it to the teachers to have the time to be able to have that break, whether that's being flexible in the future years as well. I do want to say I concur with Nikki, though. I feel like I'm good with a 27, 28 year. I think it's just worth our time to kind of put it out there to the community, because now that the demographics of the district have changed, I think it's worthwhile to see if there has been a change, or if not, then to kind of proceed with that. But I think it's worth looking into and seeing if there are other adjustments that could be made to that. Just living on a different district schedule as well, it does provide, or it does create a disjointedness, and I'm not saying that's the entire thing that we should base it off of alignment with other districts. But it does create a certain, disalignment with that I think is worthwhile looking at a little bit more for our specific district. So that's some of my thoughts with it, to look at those 2 years a little bit more specifically before we approve them. And it might be that we just go ahead with what they are, I just want to have a time to look at that a little bit more. So just so we can be intentional with kind of what we're doing with that and maybe just consider a few more options.
Diane, can I follow up on that too? This is great discussion. I think that everybody brings some different expertise, and we're just trying to land in the right place and serve everybody a little bit better. As I looked at the calendars for 28, 29, and 29, 30, my observation is that in each of those, the day that we start school, the 16th in 2028, the 15th in 2029, there's really only 3 student days that we would need to replace somewhere in order to bump us to start past August 20th. And that was really like the drop date that I heard the most from constituents in my area. They said we just can't go back before August 20th. And so finding 3 days is different than finding 7 days. And so that's where I think if we just take a little bit more time, I would appreciate that, and it would allow us to go back to those in our communities that have said, we'd really like to just have a chance to examine this a little bit closer.
Okay, let us vote on the amendment. All those in favor of changing the motion to only adopt 1 year instead of 3, the year 2027 to 2028, please raise your hand. I knew this was going to happen. All of those opposed, please raise your hand. And now I have no idea what we should do about a tie since Jason Thieler is not here. Okay, so who voted for amending the motion is Board Member Brammer, Board Member Sparty, and Board Member Hart. And who spoke against changing it to 1 year was Board Member Burrows, Board Member Bonner, and Board Member Knight. Our tiebreaker, Board Member Thieler, is not here. So I did not plan for this contingency. We will choose to table this until we can discuss it next month, at our next board meeting, which will be January 29th. And we want you to know that we wanted this robust discussion. We wanted you all to see that we are caring about these issues and that we want to take under consideration everybody's feelings and opinions and thoughts about this. So we will move to table this discussion. Okay, we will now hear board member reports. Communications Committee, our report will be by Board Member Burrows.
Okay. Last board meeting, I spoke about our logo contest that we were opening. So we have opened that, and we have 4 submissions so far. We've had lots of questions, so we've had to clarify a few things about AI, and we've learned some things. We can't trademark something that was AI generated, so that is a good reason why they can't do that, even though we want it to be original work no matter what, but we also have that reasoning also. We will close it at the end of the month. We're excited for this. I've talked to a few principals, and I've heard back from a few teachers asking questions about it, and so it's doing what we wanted it to do, generate some interest and excitement for our new district with our high school population. I also wanted to talk about, yes, the community night. I was like, wait, my mind's blanking on the second thing. On the 28th, we are going to hold here in this room a community night with our final superintendent applicants that we have narrowed down to those last few. We thought it was important for our community at large to be able to have that opportunity to see who they are and to be able to ask questions. The first hour will be question and answers. We have someone coming to moderate it, and if you want to submit questions, we need all questions pre-submitted so that we can try to fit it in within that hour and also to make sure they're appropriate. They will go to my email address, which is burrows4schoolboard@gmail.com. All this information is on our Facebook page, and we will be getting the graphic up on our website soon as I send it to her, now that I'm thinking about it. But that first hour, we will have a Q&A, and then the second hour will be a meet and greet where you'll be able to interact with those last few candidates. So I invite you all here and also watching online, and those who will be listening later, to come and attend that. I know for me personally, as a board member, it was really important for me to have this aspect because I truly value community interactions and feeling like I could see how they could interact with our communities.
Thank you. Our next report will be on our superintendent search, and we'll turn the time over to Amber Bonner.
So I'm really excited how our superintendent search has been going so far. We utilize the expertise of the Utah School Boards Association Executive Director, Richard Stoll, to help us with putting together our application and doing all of that. But our board members also worked really hard on that application. It took us a lot of time. And so I'm really appreciative of all the work that has already been done. The position did close last Friday, and we received around 20 applicants, so we're really excited about that. Over the last 3 days, we've had about 75 community members throughout the whole Aspen Peaks area come and review those applications and recommend who they would interview, who they would not interview, give us comments about the various applications. And so I am really, really appreciative of all of our community members. Each board member had the opportunity to nominate teachers and parents and staff and administrators from their area, as well as we reached out to city leaders and had a representative from each city council. We had, state school board members, a couple of former board members for Alpine District. We had a really great selection of people, I feel like, and almost 80 people actually that all came, and I really appreciated it. A couple of them had talked to me afterwards and said, "Oh my gosh, that took me like 6 hours. That was so much. You guys have a really hard choice ahead of you," and it was very time consuming to go through all of the applications. Some of them were like quite the book to read, and they were all detailed and long, but some of them were really long. So anyway, I just want to thank all of our community members for being willing to come and give us their thoughts. I think we have some really great feedback on all of the applicants from them. So the next steps are, we as a board are going to have to deliberate and just start doing some interviews and whittling it down. And then the community meeting that Board Member Burrows brought up will be the end of the month, and we will be choosing and announcing a superintendent after that. So I think the hope is the first week of February we'll be ready for an announcement. So anyway, thank you to all of those community members for putting in a lot of hours over the last 3 days. I know some of them were there like every day for multiple hours, so thank you to them for that. We really appreciate all the feedback.
Thank you. And now we'll turn some time over to Board Member Brammer for our BA search, Business Administrator.
All right, so this just opened last week. We spent a lot of time over Christmas really putting this together and tidying up what we're looking for. The business administrator role is unique from the superintendent because, they have to have a different knowledge base than just teaching and learning. And so we wanted to craft the application in a way that we could really open it up to CFOs in the area, people that had change management, startup skills, because we are ultimately a startup school district. And so I love how our application came out. We looked at other school districts that put out business administrator job announcements over the last several months. And so we kind of built off of what they had done and personalized it to our own district. It is now currently posted on the USBA website. I've been told that there have been 57 page views since it was posted last week, January 7th. It has been sent out through a website called Handshake, which I'm not familiar with, but apparently some teachers are. This website allowed us to share it with 907 schools, including all of the ones in Utah that use Handshake. And it's for students, alumni, and they have quite a large network. So it's USBA that helps connect us with that network. And then finally, the KSL job posting actually just went up yesterday, and it already has 110 views for our business administrator search. And I've been told we already have one application in. So this application will be open until February 13th, and then we'll start going through the process of hiring a business administrator with our new superintendent. And so we will be so excited to have his or her expertise and, you know, her feedback on who he or she would like to be working with too.
Thank you. So many exciting things that are happening as we launch the Aspen Peak School District, and we are so excited to be a part of all of this. As there is no further business, do we have a motion to enter a closed session to discuss personnel issues?
I move to enter into a closed session to discuss personnel issues.
Do we have a second? Thank you.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Board Member Burrows and a second by Board Member Sparty to enter a closed session to discuss personnel issues. This requires a roll call vote. Board Member Sparty?
Yes.
Board Member Brammer?
Yes.
Board Member Bonner? Board Member Hart?
Yes.
Board Member Burrows?
Yes.
And Board Member Knight? Yes. The motion has passed. We will now enter a closed session at 6:52 p.m. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are thrilled that you came.